Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us for just a moment. Seems like I caught a frog in my throat at really inopportune time, but it does happen, of course, and we've just got to try and get rid of it and get back on with the show. Now, DiNG versus Supreme, we started to talk about it a little bit more. Thank you, Lauren, for jumping in there for me.
Always welcome.
First map's going to be Lakeville. All right, so we're going to jump straight in and see what's happening here. I want to see if Supreme are going to continue their strong form on this map. They really seem to have all their bases covered. And DiNG, to be honest, is just a team that we really don't know much about. They were good against ASAP on this map, but that's really the only time when we've seen them perform on Lakeville.
Yeah, we've only seen them play on the defensive side, and we've seen Supreme on the attacking side. So we get to see maybe a different side of these two teams playing, of course, a different kind of style in general. I mean, Team Supreme have been really on point, as I said before. You know, they haven't played the hardest teams in the world, ASAP, Penta, and No Mercy. So maybe they just haven't been tested. But then again, in all three of those matches, they've been extremely dominant with 5-0, 5-2s, and 5-1s, respectively. Now, you can see Team Supreme heading up north. They did this last time. You know, they got control of that middle area with Shanish, this time played by Nuclear in that AMX 1390. And they just came from multiple angles, but DiNG, aggressive with those IS3s.
Very much so. Pushing 4 of those in towards that main church and looking for some sort of resistance, or at least hoping for it when they're pushing the brunt of their tanks in that direction. But there is no one to be found. Team Supreme have not opted at all for the city play and instead have pulled the entirety of their force over towards that western side of the map. Interesting play here, and DiNG have nothing to go on.
No, DiNG, well, I think DiNG knows that Team Supreme are toward the west side because there's no other position they can be in. I mean, you would have got spots into the middle area. So Team Supreme just needs to get into a position where they can actually get the cap down, and DiNG needs to get into a position where they can actually defend that cap. That's the next thing that's going to happen. Of course, you know, the thing is Supreme with those IS3s are going to be very slow, but because you know, Team Supreme has seen those IS3s. That's why they're going for this move. That's why they're going for the western cap.
All right. They've got the most of their forces mobilized. They're waiting for the first spot. They know, well, they expect at the very least the team to leave a little bit of a scout back, and Stoic is going to be fulfilling that exact role for DiNG right now. There's a few blind spots coming through, and that has actually revealed Griffin care of Stoic sitting back doing the spotting. It's only Griffin that's been lit. Now Shanish is the second, to be revealed. FC Dynamo rails off a shot, and he is also lit. Now DiNG have to respond very, very quickly. Cast your eyes to the minimap and see how DiNG are pulling their IS3s back out of the city. They're lucky to have them so close to the defensive areas, and they can get them in position to receive this.
It's pretty funny how slow both these teams are doing. I mean, it's really like watching a game in slow motion. The big point, though, is that DiNG has got those AMX 1390s flanking through the middle, and if they get behind Team Supreme in time, it will be game over Team Supreme. But then again, if Team Supreme push forwards and get enough for an advantage, DiNG will find themselves out of position and outnumbered.
Ron, in that signature FV304, has got to be careful. They have, of course, Team Supreme, that is, left a 1390 back to defend against anything funny that might go on. That's Nuclear in that one as well. One of the star players from this team and arguably the best in Europe. I've said that a couple times tonight, but he's definitely in that top echelon. Now, Supreme have made a push here. They are inching their way on towards his cap. And Nuclear has spotted out Hulknik. We'll put a few shots towards him now. Just going to reveal himself, and Hulknik's just backing away. He has no idea how to respond to this one. And Nuclear doing what he does best, shaves a massive amount of health off Hulknik.
Doesn't miss at all. I mean, I think those two MX 1390s were way too scared going forwards. They got spotted by the MX 1390, even though they could get the overmatch, which would have worked maybe. I don't know. The thing is, Nuclear can just drive forwards, actually. And if they go for him, he's going to drive forwards, and then he can just drive backwards and go 2 versus 1, buy themselves a lot of time. So Team Supreme need to reset this fight, get those AMX 1390s in the middle, maybe even just pester Nuclear with the T21 and keep him out of this battle. But still, it's still onto Team Supreme to cap. It's still on Team Supreme to make the offensive move because they are attacking.
Incredible work from Nuclear. Just him sitting back in that 1390 has made DiNG think twice about even bothering with that western side. And now they brought those 1390s towards the middle road, and that's perfect for Team Supreme. There's no chance of them being flanked right now, and they can use their muscle, they can use their guns, and they can use their aim to start to win this one via attrition. But Applewell gets hammered there by a couple shots towards him. 838 damage is shaved off of him. And he's just going to have to sit tight, but he's not on the cap. He's not a factor in this capture process. And FC Dynamo and Shanish are ticking up those points.
Yeah, this is looking not so good for DiNG even at this point. They're taking a lot of damage. You've still got the AMX 1390 in the middle of the T21, has plenty of time to actually get this reset, but Nuclear's still there. He's still providing some sort of barrier between him and a reset, and Hulknik will have to start making this move. Shockish is now hold down the IS3 trying to get the resets.
Griffin is in the perfect space to put a shot towards him now, and Phoenix can even get involved if he chooses to come around there. There's still, the resets have been pretty slow, but Bakushian will finally manage to take down one of Team Supreme's players. Now Ron and FC Dynamo sitting up on towards that cap. Ron, it's a stubby gun. It's got a good elevation arc as well. He may even be able to get shots towards Shockish over behind that little outcrop, and he's getting hammered. Bakushian low. There it is, Applewell and Griffin chiming in. Kenny Boy and Shockish go down. DiNG are running out of players to contest this cap with, and now Nuclear decides he's happy to lend his weight on towards that cap.
He's just going to put a third tank in there to make sure the cap goes down very quickly. That's going to put the pressure immediately onto DiNG and Griffin. You know, he's been such a beast. He's doing so much damage, as well as Phoenix to the right side. I love that guy in the lighter tanks. As Diplomat goes for a last-ditch attempt.
Oh, it's risky, but he's going to be able to get the reset, and well, that's about it, to be honest. He'll be able to put some damage towards Ron, who was vulnerable, but he's still going to be standing. The T21 of Stoik will, though, manage to finish that artillery off, but DiNG, they are battered, they are bruised. They're not yet broken, but they're not in a great position to really take this back off Supreme.
Yeah, 2,000 hit points into favor of Team Supreme. You can see the hold down tanks are, you know, in good positions now. The cap is on the way, but one thing going for DiNG is that really 1 minute and 10 seconds left is not a lot of time. It's getting rather close for Team Supreme, and I would say the only real way they're going to win this is via that cap. They need 2 at least in there, and DiNG is just playing for the time, and they're just playing for the game, and I think this could work out for them.
Phenomenally, Applewell was still standing in that little alcove where just before DiNG were putting so much pressure in towards him. He's been able to hang on, and he's a bastion of strength right now because Supreme have to go through him before they can really do anything about the camp. But time is ticking down. One more reset, a good one for Bakushian or Meritorious will make this hard for Team Supreme. They're going to have to commit another tank towards the camp, but Meritorious, he gets so low. Can he get a shot? No, Phoenix will take him out. Now Hulknik's going to push up as well. And he gets taken down as well. He thought he'd be able to use the reload times of those IS3s to get through, but there was no gap. The base capture down to 1 second now, and Bakushian is not even remotely close to being able to reset that one. DiNG are going to fall here. They weren't able to stop that capture. And Supreme, great work from them. Solid setup. They got on their way on towards that cap. Very calculated play from them, really. Very slow and steady, wins the race.
Yeah, they were very logical. You're 100% right. I mean, very surprising how kind of predictable they were. I think if artillery was in play for DiNG, it would have been game over, because Team Supreme won that round on the 18th second. I mean, the 18th second, that's not a one-sided result. DiNG got very close. They just didn't have the HP to reset because that 5100 hull was in front, protecting those 2 IS3s. Fantastic work by Phoenix to get the track on the IS3, buying his team another, you know, second or second and a half, and then you have Apwar on that T32 just constantly providing good hull down firepower onto anything that wants to encroach forward. So very slow, very methodical from Team Supreme, very obvious, and it somehow worked.
Absolutely, and you know, we've seen these Western caps, or these at least Western pushes, start to become a little bit more prevalent now. These teams are definitely favouring the long trudge through Lemming Valley to get up on towards the cap, and I mean, fair enough as well. If you have a look at it topographically, there are a lot of really handy hills and mesas that attacking teams can use to set up this incredible crossfire. 4 or 5 tanks can really have a really good amount of cover over the map. This is where the setup was for Team Supreme. This is just after Dynamo inched onto the cap. Yeah,
we saw this setup already in the first matchup between No Mercy and Utopia, but it works out well. You can just sit here, make side shots on. I love this position by Phoenix. You know, this is the position you want to be in as a T54 driver. You hull down, you can poke very quickly, you're in an annoying position. You're not going to do a hell of a lot of damage, but you're going to play a really instrumental role. I think the big thing from Team Supreme was they knew that it's an obvious move, and they knew that DiNG would know what they're doing. So they said, screw it, we're not going to use the T54s, we're going to use IS3s, because you already know where we're going. So we might as well pick tanks that are you know, very good in those situations where you need to be held down, where you need to be doing a lot of damage. I think that was really clever by Team Supreme.
Yeah, it's not as if their approach was one that was going to be veiled by subterfuge and general sneaky tactics.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we're going to just push onto their camp, and we're going to force them to sort of do the standard roll up and try and reset thing that we see really often on steps as well. Another great example of that. So they take these tanks that don't need to be super mobile, and they just put them there. They've got really good armor. I mean, you're just walking through the valley. No mobility really required because no one's going to challenge you there except a T21. Not much you can really do about that at all, but DiNG now have to think again. All right, this is Supreme doing what they do best. They won that attacking round. They are undoubtedly the top team this season, showing very few weaknesses in even fewer games. These guys, DiNG, they've got to have something special. They've got to pull something out of the hat here. Hey, try something different. Try something that Supreme won't expect. I
think they did try something a little different with the MX-3090s being so quick to react through the middle, but Nuclear in that position, I mean, he could get so many shots onto those MX-3090s before they were even close, and then he could just run off the hill, and he has support from the rest of his team who are sitting up towards the cap. So I think it was just great from them, and I think a little bit too obvious from DiNG. Now, with the same lineup from Team Supreme and the same lineup from DiNG, basically, you know, Team Supreme going for the classical eastern side push, and I think we're going to have just a big firefight here. Of course, Team Supreme starting from the north on the attacking side, they have the higher grounds to start off with, and that's where their advantage is at the moment.
Team Supreme is showing a lot of strategic depth here by being able to just alter their strategy so drastically in between these attacking rounds. But DiNG want to take the fight to them. They push their tanks up in towards the city. Supreme may well be ready for this now. You can see Dynamo, Applewell and Griffin getting ready to bust down that wall and come straight towards those IS-3s. Shockish gets tracked up. He takes a lot of damage, but he's not going to quite go down yet. There he goes. But Holden picked up Shanish earlier on in the piece here. Those three IS-3s are going to come forward. This is what Team Supreme, this is where their mettle is really tested in those reactive scenarios. Phoenix is going to be overmatched in just a moment. Griffin, Dynamo and Applewell just trying to huddle together, and Ron trying to do work from the background in the FV.
This is going well for DiNG at the moment. They're using the fact that Ron's playing an artillery to their advantage, but the thing is Team Supreme are now going to start adapting, and their player skill could come into the equation.
And this is it. Phoenix coming up behind Diplomat. A high roll will get the kill. It won't quite finish it off. But Kenny Boy takes down Griffin. FC Dynamo is surrounded by 3 IS-3s right now, and there's not a heck of a lot you can do. Applewell, though, he's trying to contribute. He's trying to do some damage and help out, but Diplomat is so low, and Hulknick is so low. The last time we saw this scenario, you said you have to finish off that tank you're trying to shoot before worrying about another one, and we're seeing these low health tanks from DiNG are still on their feet.
Yeah, Phoenix also doing great work against Stoic, but it's really bad news now as the tanks start to fall. Nuclear trying to do some work in the last stages of this game.
Nuclear, there's not much he can do. He's got 3 shots left. That's not enough to account for the health advantage that DiNG have. He's going to try and limp away. He's going to try and scamper off, but Meritorious blocks his path and sends him packing. Ron, though, will still pick up Diplomat in that 1390. And he didn't track himself coming down the hill this time, so credit to Ron. Look at that reload, really quick on the FV. He can get a direct shot towards Kenny Boy. If he connects with it properly, he'll really hurt, but no. Just the one hit for 163. And it was, of course, DiNG that took that match away. It wasn't Supreme, but look, why don't we just take Supreme off guard? These guys come in with these really well-executed, well-orchestrated strategies. Why don't we just test their mettle head-to-head and force us to fight us mono-e-mono?
Exactly. I mean, Team Supreme did the same thing when they were actually defending. They just pushed in, went for the engage. You know, the artillery's there. It's already a tank down. You can see that makes a big difference when you have a tier 6 or 2 tier 7s. Ron did about 78 damage in the entirety of that game, not including that lush useless shot against Kenny Boy. And then they went in against T32, deleted off the map. To be fair, Shockish went down after that, but already, like, in that 5 seconds between when that T32 went down, I think that was Applewell, and when Shockish died, you could see that DiNG had already done another 800 damage to other tanks. They had the directional firepower, went forwards with the MX-3090s, and it was just great work. We can have a look back at the first engage from DiNG. So the T32 is already cancelled out. It was, who was that played by? Shanish, yeah. It's a bit strange that Shanish playing a T32. And then they have the high ground. Now, DiNG is forced Supreme off the high ground. Diplomat going forwards. Very aggressive play from that MX-1390. Phoenix in a T-54 can't do too much. Although he does do good work, I have to say it. And DiNG just start to close the net. And that's a big problem. FC Dynamo and Griffin with QCat behind them. That's fantastic work from DiNG.
And you see a Diplomat is still standing. Hulknick, I think, takes a hit from Phoenix, perhaps. He didn't have the shot towards Diplomat, so fair shout. But really, Team Supreme, it was really only that one tank that they were missing that hurt them here. Can you imagine if there was a head-to-head engagement with, you know, an equal number of those heavy tanks? It could well have gone a different way. So, you know, DiNG, it's not underhanded, but it's not the most original tactic to go for the fight if they have that artillery. Ron, his effectiveness was sort of limited in that scenario. I mean, you have a great elevation on that FE304, but still tough to react to such aggressive play from DiNG.
Yeah, it worked one time as well. I mean, it worked against No Mercy because No Mercy were pretty slow going forwards. But in this situation, it simply didn't work out. Couldn't get the damage, couldn't really make it work out for him. But still, Team Supreme, they've lost a couple of rounds this season. They haven't had a clean sheet. So I think they're still in a good position. But it's good that DiNG is just willing to actually go in a brawl situation against Team Supreme, which I think a lot of teams are very scared to do. You
can't give a team too much respect. There's almost an element if you have to disrespect them if you want to get the upper hand. So let's see if DiNG can continue to do that and really start to press towards Supreme now. They're on the attack. They're coming from the north, and Supreme are defending from the south.
Yeah, you've got DiNG just getting the T20 up, going T21 going forwards, trying to spot out Team Supreme heading across. So it looks like Team Supreme are just setting up for the normal defensive lineup. DiNG already adapting, sending T-54s in the middle instead of rotating all the way around because, oh, you know, what's the point of doing that if, you know, Team Supreme is got that left side fully covered. So Shockish Diplomat are going to be the first ones going forwards and trying something.
I'm not sold on the T21 scouting for DiNG there. He can't spot the tanks crossing. It's the second time we've seen that tank not really be able to achieve much at all from that position. But I digress now, as Diplomat and Shockish are set up in that middle road. The double 54 lightweight in that position is always really proven to be effective and highly flexible, whereas Team Supreme have opted for that Object 416 for Griffin there. We saw Kasdan do it with Alien, albeit on the attacking side here. But so far, DiNG are holed up in the middle of the town. They're really just hoping for those 254 lightweights to create an opening.
Yeah, they're trying to find damage onto Shanish, who's not going to be able to be hit at all. But actually, he's in a vulnerable position. If DiNG just go forwards, which they will, they 100% go for the engage. As you said, between Gazner and Penta, this was a very similar setup. First of all, Shanish will die. Diplomat and Shockish will destroy Nuclear and FC Dynamo there in the double IS-3s. And I just don't see how Team Supreme can win this. They have to adapt somewhere else with the lighter tanks, maybe the 416, and come from a different angle.
Shanish, a lot of shots peppering the area around him, but not enough to really do any damage. But here comes the spearhead of DiNG. Has Shanish managed to bait these tanks out into an engagement? This is the setup, as you said, we saw from Kasner, albeit one less tank being used here for Supreme. So less of an investment if it is to go awry, and you can be sure that Supreme have their guns trained on this bottom corner of the map. And it's almost as if DiNG were watching that game between Kasner and Penta. They're very cautious about pushing up on towards Shanish.
I'm really curious to see what the 416 can do, but they need to have something quicker to take him down. I think maybe Shockish needs to come off that hill. I don't know, it's really hard. Because he is playing the MX-3090, he'll be able to destroy the T-54 if he doesn't bounce any shells. So it's hard at the moment for DiNG to make a decision. I think they should just go for the engage against Nuclear and FC Dynamo. And as soon as Shanish makes that first move, swing your turrets around, sit behind the rock and take him down.
All right, well, they're not the fastest moving turrets there from those IS-3s. They do take a while. Kenny Boy's going to get double tapped as he tries to make his way up, and this is playing well into Supreme's hand. Shanish has an opportunity for flanking shots from that position, and DiNG have walked straight into this net. Meritorious has tried to turn his tank around, so has Kenny Boy and Percushiat. But all for one shot that they get towards Shanish. Just the one little bit of damage on towards that 1390. And now they've exposed their rear to a multitude of positions here. This is an awkward positioning for DiNG.
This is very awkward. But the thing is, if Shanish does peek, you need to have a T-54 firing up, and then he can actually shoot Shanish. Also, if the T-21 can get behind, it's going to be able to put so much annoying pressure onto Team Supreme. They will have to turn one of their turrets to actually deal with it. So it's all on the T-21 to make the next move. I think this for at least 10-20 seconds is going to be a bit of a stalemate.
The war of attrition has begun, and so far, DiNG are not winning. A fair bit of damage, and Kenny Boy has gone down to about half his health. Percushiat and Meritorious also, and including Hulknick, have all taken a hit here. Hulknick now going to have to deal with Shanish there, and he only gets a track on that to 1390. That's devastating as well. And Shanish, of course, has the advantage in terms of reload time. Hulknick was trying to get some side scrape going on as well. DiNG Still taking a lot of damage all over the map. Shockish and Diplomat they're in a decent spot, but the majority of the Supreme force that are firing on those DiNG tanks are out of their view. And this is a really intricate, very clever setup from Team Supreme. They've established multiple crossfires in different directions, and Shanish is the perfect bait.
He's just an absolute beast, that guy. I love Shanish so much. Even when he's not playing alongside Apwao, he's just a guy that can hold his own. He's so consistent, but DiNG decides to go.
Meritorious taking a shot. You can see the traces going overhead as well as those IS-3s are now trying to make some sort of inroads. Hulknick just has to ignore the 30-90 of Shanish for the moment, but how long can you really ignore it for? FC Dynamo picks up Meritorious. Hulknick finally turning his turret around to try and deal with Shanish, but Shanish is on reload and won't be poking anytime soon. Nuclear goes down, though, to Kenny Boy. That's at least something for DiNG right now, but they are, well, between a rock and a hard place, and that's it's a tough situation, really. They're in this valley, but there are a lot of shots coming in towards them, and even FC Dynamo's up close using that rock to get cheeky ones in there. Percutiat is super low, but manages to get away, and Hulknick is also a one-shot. DiNG, their attack has faltered.
Massive mistake from FC Dynamo, who should have taken down that IS-3, and DiNG now do get themselves back into this game because Percutiat lived through that episode there. Shanish finds Percutiat as he does come off reload. Now this is a problem. Bad positioning by Shanish. Does go for the P to get Percutiat down, but pays with his life.
How curious. I mean, Shanish, the whole game, had just kept his mettle so well. He's never been a player to go off on a limb and make silly errors, but that was just unfortunate for him. Run will have the slight edge here over Wood Stoke, and he will be able to get that kill. And that T21, as you said before, was really going to be a draw card for DiNG in the later stages of this round in terms of using that Valley and pushing up and applying pressure to the defenders of Supreme. Now, they can just sit back.
The only way I see DiNG winning this one is if they somehow manage to commit so much into the Eastern Cap, they actually catch Team Supreme by surprise, because you can see it's a 4 versus 4 situation, but pretty much every single tank of Team Supreme has more hit points. Yes, okay, DiNG has one more tier 8 tank, but still with such little time left, you know, Team Supreme just need to push forwards with one of the higher hit points tanks, get that one reset, and it's game over for DiNG.
You really can't underestimate the DPM that a 416 can put out. Griffin in the right position can be ferocious in this case, but a second tank has moved up on towards that capture. So now it's Hulknick and Shockish just trying to hold it down. Two IS-3s that are, sorry, an IS-3 and a 54 that are respectively quite low, but their combined firepower is going to be enough to cripple any tank that Supreme send forward to try and interrupt this one. And that's where Ron comes in. You can see him moving through the city. Now, let's see if he can not do it. Let's see if he can do better than Rafiq and actually get that reset to stick, but he's running out of time. 3 seconds to go, and Shockish picks up Phoenix. He was trying to make a crack of it. Hulknick, yes! There we go. Applewell picks him up. Ron didn't even have to chime in there. That's going to hurt DiNG. Now, Ron, can he get the shot on towards Shockish? Yes, he gets that one. And time is running out. 2 seconds, 1 second, and Ron has succeeded, where Rafiq had failed in the same position, managing to get the reset, and time runs out for DiNG.
And DiNG had 3 tanks alive, and Griffin was the only one remaining for Team Supreme. But still, you know, Team Supreme held on long enough that they didn't have to worry too much. Ron had about 5 seconds before he needed to decap 100%. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, DiNG got caught out by Shanish. They didn't expect him to be there. And obviously the thing they need to do is just push forwards and deal with FC Dynamo there, because, you know, it's an AMX 3090, can only do 1,440 damage, and it's probably going to bounce a couple against the IS-3 side, so screw it, just push forwards. You got the overmatch with the IS-3s anyway, don't worry about it.
I think this is a slight adjustment to Kasna Crew's strat here that has now made it successful, that has now made it viable as well. This worked out so well. I mean, we definitely gave DiNG a lot of rope coming into this, saying, well, look, you know, they've got the IS-3s here, they can do work, and Shanish really didn't seem like he was so impactful. But his mere presence was enough, really. He had so much time to work with DiNG. IS-3s have a really low turret traverse rate. When dealing with multiple targets from different directions, they really struggle, and you can see this here.
Yeah, and this is finally the point when DiNG says enough is enough. Well, no, it's not even the point to say enough is enough. They get themselves into an awkward situation, but here they got 3 IS-3s. Just push forwards and kill that, kill those 2 IS-3s. You got the 2 T-54s on hill. You know, Kasna, okay. You know, Penta didn't have an AMX 3090 there, but the principles are the same. Don't get distracted by the AMX 3090. Push those IS-3s into a position where either you can get clear shots onto them, or the T-54s can get clear shots from behind. I think DiNG, they got distracted, and they let it slip away from them.
Yeah, and Supreme are pushing this multifaceted strategy, which has a lot of little blinking lights and whistles to sort of attract the unwary as well. It's a lot of little distractions And there's a lot of smoke and mirrors to detract them from the main purpose here as well. It's like, here's a guy right here. There's two IS-3s in front of you. But the real threat is obviously the 416 of Griffin as well, and those tanks that can sort of fire up from a distance. Lauren, the vote, definitely something we want to touch on here as well. It's opened up to fans to be sort of commenting and getting their opinions in via the vote. What are we seeing so far?
Well, considering DiNG were able to pick up actually around so far with that real aggression they brought out, it's still sitting around the high 80s, the high 70s, almost 80s for Team Supreme. So the highest vote percentage we've almost had today. So people out there starting to really respect what Team Supreme can bring to these matches. And I have to ask you guys a question, something that I know a couple of people in chat were discussing. And they're saying that, well, DiNG looked very close to being good here. They liked the 1390s, but they said, why didn't they just, work together with them? Why did they go one by one? It looks like DiNG gets a little nervous sometimes and then makes an error. Is that because they're against Team Supreme, these big names, do you think?
I think so. I mean, it's always that thing where if you're fighting these big names you've seen play throughout the seasons, you kind of look up to them as idols. You always get put in that situation. I mean, it's good. It's a good point to make. Those AMX 1390s probably should have committed against Nuclear, and then in that previous round, those IS3s should have committed against FC Dynamo.
Yeah. It's funny what a name can do to you, really. You watch a team, you hear us, sort of talking about how sort of strong they are and how strong that we expect them to sort of be, and you go up against them, and all the strategies that you sort of develop can just sort of go out the window in some cases. So DiNG, I said this before, you cannot respect your opponent too much. There's always going to be an element of disrespect in there, not so much that you try something risky and sort of just go all out, but not so much respect for them that you fumble, that you second guess yourself at every turn, because this is kind of what we're seeing from DiNG.
Yeah, I think they're second-guessing themselves and they're not relying on their own ability as a team, who have shown themselves to be pretty good. Clearly, they are practicing a lot and they're showing real malice. They're showing real ability here. But same lineup from Team Supreme. Almost the same lineup from DiNG. I think that's actually the same lineup. And it looks like the same start here as Stoic goes forwards in that T21.
I'm yet to see this work out. I really am. I understand. Push a tank with good sight range up towards this rock and get him to do some spotting. But Stoic,
he's going further.
To his credit, moves up a little bit further. A slight alteration of that strategy. Because those early shots, those free damage coming across is so important. And yet still, no spots have happened. Stoic, I mean, the problem is you have to stop in that T21 for your coded optics to activate. They're not all, your binocs, sorry, your binocs. They're not always activated. Yep. So you need to wait, and he was moving the whole time. Maybe he could have spotted someone. FC Dynamo is the only one that's been spotted there in the IS3, so that's something. It's something, but Team Supreme, it's too hard for DiNG to read into their strat right now, and it seems like a very similar rollout for DiNG as we saw last time. I
think you'll see the T21 push actually fade out into nothing, because obviously it's not working. It only worked really at the first couple of times we saw Lakeville. Maybe if a team on the defensive side decides to push all the way to the right and gets caught out in the middle, but I'm not sure.
This used to work. Teams used to put a Pershing on the middle road with extra rations, so they had that extra sight range, and it worked like a charm. From the north side, they'd push up there, and it'd be a shooting gallery on the defensive side.
It's still a valid tactic in random battles. I mean, as you said, Pershing, great view range and everything like that. So it just, these teams just drive all the way along the K line, just right at the back where the bushes are, so they can't get spotted. But yeah, this is the same setup from both teams.
So this is interesting. It's kind of nice to see this scenario where teams are put up against the same strategy and are initially rolling out with their same strategy and how they adapt. This is going to show us whether DiNG is a real team worthy of like the top half of these teams, because they've only really beaten strong. So they're one of those teams that have failed to the stronger teams and managed to beat the weaker ones. The proof's going to be in the pudding right here, and this is honestly almost identical right now. Hulknick is hoping that Shanish isn't behind that building, but he knows it. He knows Shanish is going to be waiting for him. DiNG, time for some variation.
Yeah, I think they're just going to be aggressive now. I'm really curious, though, exactly what the variation will be. Stoic is going forwards. I mean, clearly Stoic should have been a better player over towards the left side, and again gets cancelled out, but Shanish finds him. And again, Stoic, if he didn't lose that engagement over the left side, it would have been a different story. I mean, that was the other storyline. DiNG could have easily won it that way as well, but let's see how they continue now. Two
rounds in a row, Stoic been pretty useless, but this time, these IS-3s, will they push up? Bakusia takes a big hit, sends him reeling, and he's going to back up. He's just going to reverse that tank and not push on here. It's still only the two IS-3s in that position right now. Griffin, you can see at the top of your screen, did take a hit, and Hulknick is there. I mean, pushing forward with numbers might be a little bit too ballsy, but those IS-3s, They are really worried about Shanish right now. They have their turrets turned to him in a big way, and they're looking to try and get him out. I mean, Hulknick, he was the guy in this position last time as well when Shanish really chunked him down. Give Shanish an inch, and he will take it all the way to the bank. Right now, he's just sitting back waiting for his chance to strike.
So right now, we have Ron basically being able to just do whatever he wants on this map because Stoic died in the T21, so he can roam around, he can hold angles. He's probably going to be thinking to himself, right, so if my team really gets into a situation like we did last time, I'm going to sit into the position where I can get the decap whenever I want to. And that's going to be playing for time, and Team Supreme will be playing for time.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Shanish is doing so much work from that position. It is beautifully executed. It's like poetry in tanks. He will go down. This time, those tanks in the middle can do some work. But Nuclear and FC Dynamo are low. A chance maybe for DiNG. A glimmer, if at all, of hope for these guys. And they will manage to dispatch of Nuclear. FC Dynamo responds on towards Kenny Boy. But Hulknick picks him up. There's a lot of smoke and flames on the battlefield. But as that smoke clears, DiNG do have that one tank advantage at the moment, even despite losing Stoic early on.
See, that's a good engagement for DiNG there. They seem to got everything sorted out from the previous round. They got Shanish down early on. They made sure they all pushed out at the same time, so Team Supreme couldn't focus so easily on one tank, and they managed to take down those two IS-3s a lot more easily. Griffin taking a lot of damage now on the 4-on-6 isn't good news as well, but the main point is they have that right side. It's all going to be on Ron now, and I guess the other tanks as well, obviously. First of all, to buy some time, and second of all, to get that decap.
I set DiNG a challenge at the start of this round. If they're a real team, they need to show up here and make some variations to their strat. It's been good so far, but it's important to note that Shockish and Diplomat are the only healthy tanks on DiNG, and they're lightweights. They're not super healthy in and of themselves. Meritorious and Percushiat are one-shots. Hulknick is a two-shot. These tanks are low. And Ron, the tactician, ever so sneaky, has made his way into the city again and is going to be able to wreak havoc on towards DiNG, who are now trying to start that cap up.
So 10 seconds to go. Ron's got plenty of time. Obviously, there's 3 tanks in there, so they're going to be holding all the angles. Let's see if they got the right ones.
Ron will be coming from maybe a little bit of a predictable position, but Meritorious has his rear end faced towards Ron. No, it was his front end, actually. Ron managed to connect, but it wasn't really effective. But Shockish had to push off of the cap to get the reset there. So now it's all chaotic. It went down, it went up to 55, and now it's gone down again. And yes, Ron got Amarak. Not that it really means much in this particular scenario.
I don't know, man. He got Amarak, which means he couldn't get the second shell, which would have been a great reset. But yeah, I mean, he still would have been capped.
Sure, I mean, definitely, like he had a chance for that second shot. DiNG, beautiful work. They got this cap going on, but there goes the reset in towards Meritorious. It was a great shot across the map, but all Supreme have to work with is Upper Wow and Phoenix. If this is a chessboard, they'd be the Knights, but Team Supreme might need more than that. They might need some Kings. They really need to push that. Well, Kings suck. Damn it, that would have been so good. Kings suck. That's okay. Queens, thank you very much, producer, but we have 5 seconds left, and Phoenix now is really just trying to shake this one up, but Diplomat knows exactly what he's trying to do, and is just going to try and interrupt him here. Phoenix can't get that final resetting shot, and DiNG, they're in the house, ladies and gentlemen. They have turned up, and there goes the cap for them as well. And it's going to make it a 2-2 here. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, one of my notes from DiNG is that if they do go 2-2 after Lakeville, they got a real good chance of next match Ruinberg. But yeah, I mean, this is what I love. I mean, you could see the differences, the nuances between the 2 rounds there when they were attacking, and they fixed all the mistakes. They were quicker, they were more snappy. They took care of Shanish with the T21 going forwards and getting killed, but at least got 412 damage on him there. And then Shanish peaked a little bit too much. And they all poked at the same time. I really like that adaptation. Took down the ISGs very quickly and realized, hey, those tanks sitting up into the western side, they can't actually do that much work on us.
Here's a can of worms I'll open for you. Attacking teams we've seen have always gone with something interesting on their first attacking side, and then they've gone standard, or they've at least changed it between the 2 rounds. On this case, DiNG have gone with the same attacking approach and made slight alterations to counter the defense. Is that's almost a case for teams trying to stick to their guns with their attacking strategies? Yeah,
I think it's a good thing as well. I mean, sure, you can do what Team Supreme did and kind of go around the map and explore, but I think the thing with DiNG was they realized that Team Supreme would do the same thing twice, and they knew what their mistakes were. They knew what the mistakes were, and they fixed them, and it was just easy. I think if I'm going to blame anyone, it'd be Team Supreme, because they had a T21 again. And I think they should have picked artillery. I think if they picked artillery and they said, okay, so DiNG is going to be doing this because they did it again, they did it the last time, then you could just pump out the damage into those IS-3s. You could provide great support to FC Dynamo, Nuclear, and it would have been a different game where, You know, the artillery were done 800, 900, 1,000 damage before that engagement happens, which makes a big difference.
Well, let's have a look at how this one started. This was almost carbon copy of what we saw the first time for DiNG. This was that initial push with those IS-3s. The setup was essentially the same from Team Supreme as well. Ron sitting back in a position where he could later harass, and those 4 IS-3s just poking around the corner, and of course, young Mr. Shanish in that back corner. So this started off the same, but it was a little bit after this where DiNG actually made that key innovation that let them snowball this round to a victory. Yeah,
DiNG goes forwards now. Stoic goes forwards. He gets immediately destroyed, but this is more of a distraction tactic. Because they're all shooting Stoic, they're not shooting the IS-3s going forwards. Shanish also receives a shell via Hulknik, just keeping everything cool in the background. And then Shanish kind of comes a useless pawn, and the T-54s come forwards in the middle. So at the moment, it's going well for DiNG. They're keeping the HP very close to Team Supremes, and they're still hitting their shells. That's the thing you got to remember. DiNG are hitting the shells. If they weren't, then it would be like round 1.
This is DiNG doing some serious work. I mean, Team Supreme, the most rounds that any team has actually got on them all season is 2.
Yeah.
So DiNG have matched that. So we're now potentially going into some uncharted territory here. DiNG really showing up, showing us what they can do. I really don't think we've seen these guys tested enough this season. They've gone against Rocks, who are going to be a top team. They've gone against Wusa, who's sort of middle, and they've gone against Strong, who's a bottom team. But I want to see DiNG tested more, and this is a great proving grounds for them as well. It's a great proving ground for their shot caller as well. And this is the result. Let's have a look at how the game sort of finished off those last moments. And you can sort of see the layout of the battlefield here. Meritorious and Hulknik are going for the cap. I mean, this is where it all sort of begins here. It's only Applebow, Phoenix, and Griffin left standing.
Yeah, they basically did a lot of damage to them as well, which makes them very wary to peek. And this is game over 100%. Diplomat goes for Phoenix. You know, Pecusiat finds Griffin, who's been doing good work in that 4-1-6. You can see Phoenix making the shells. Diplomat immediately realizes that. 57 seconds left on the clock. Everything goes unspotted now, and DiNG are now in the more safe area. Meritorious gets a little bit lucky there. He just bounces Phoenix, but still, everything's good here for DiNG. Pecusiat just providing support, brings Phoenix down to a manageable amount of hit points for Diplomat, and game over. And also, the thing is, yes, okay, teams have been able to bring a team has been able to bring Team Supreme down 2 rounds. That was Penta. But, you know, that was always in a situation where Supreme was 3-1 up after the first map. So they were kind of not useless rounds, but they were like 4-1 up, and then a team took them to 4-2, but still they only have to win 1 round. So, you know,
absolutely,
it's a great position for DiNG, and, you know, uncharted territories for Team Supreme.
And that's what we'd like to see here at the WGL EU. Now, Lauren, this is an interesting result. Definitely for all and sundry have to agree.
Yep.
People voting now that they're seeing a little bit more of DiNG, a little bit more of that, you know, tactical prowess that they can bring to the battlefield. Does that affect standings much here?
No. People have zero faith. And you know what? I'm going to be the bearer of bad news. I'm going to ruin this happy little storyline of DiNG's. I'm going to be that person today. All right, it's a new map. We've got, let's say, the superstar team of Team Supreme coming together, right? They're going to go through the, you know, your bread and butter. They've got Ron at the helm, the most stoic guy I'll ever meet. I don't think I've seen him smile once. He's like Stalker, but less angry and more just... Yeah, he's like Ollie. Thank you, producer. Nice.
Thank you very much.
Look, he does break a smile occasionally. It looks a bit painful for him, but he does.
He didn't actually say that in my ear, so, you know.
Perfect. I just hear voices in my head.
Excellent.
It's fine. But still, I'm going to say once this gets to Ruinberg, you're going to see Team Supreme living up to their name, because, okay, DiNG can cause an upset on a new map where maybe Supreme aren't so well versed in it. They don't have all of these kind of T's and I's dotted and crossed. They don't have that yet. They're working on that, so they could depend on individual skill. But I bet once we get to Ruinberg, we're going to see Supreme just kick it up a gear. And it looks like the people at home believe me as well, so ignore these two. They're selling you a bunch of lies, but you got to keep your hopes up. But still, there is a couple of DiNG fans out there. The votes are still about the 70% in Supreme's favor. So you guys... think you know what's up. I'm kind of with you on this one. I think when we get to Ruinberg, I don't care what the old results are. I think we're going to have the likes of Applebow, Shanish, Ron running wild. Bearing in mind, Applebow is currently sitting on the most targets destroyed of the entire season. This guy could do it single-handedly. Maybe. But still, guys, we'll be back after a very short break, and we'll find out who's right and who's wrong in Map 2.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the WGL EU. We're into our final game of the night, and it's definitely not progressing the way we expected it to. Supreme, before tonight, haven't lost more than one round on any single map. And in that last map, of course, DiNG took 2 off them. Yeah, brilliant stuff from DiNG. One good defensive round, one good attacking round. Showed some real class, some real poise, and Team Supreme seem to default to what they know. They've been stomping the ground, stomping the field, dominating the field so far, and now they're really tested. They have to concentrate in this next match. This is reality. Supreme haven't really been tested yet. ASAP, Penta, and No Mercy. 3 teams that they've already played. 3 teams that are well and truly in the bottom half of the map. So. Good work to them. We're going to love it. It's really, really good. Our second map's going to be Ruinberg here. Yeah. So we've seen the Lakeville Ruinberg line up twice. Lawrence seems to think that Supreme will sort of start to take charge. I know actually that DiNG have a really good Ruinberg defense. They was very effective against Rocks, so maybe Rocks just fell apart. So maybe we'll see something special from them here. I don't know. I want to know what your thoughts are, though. I think their best map is Ruinberg. They beat Strink. On this map, they beat Rocks on this map. You know, 4 a defensive win, so they won all their defensive rounds, and 2 attacking wins on this map. So, to be honest, I mean, Team Supreme chose Lakeville as their map, and they went 2-2. That's bad news for Team Supreme. DiNG chose Ruinberg on the defense to get 2 default wins, basically, and it go 4-2. And then they only need to win one time on the attack, which is not an easy thing, but something they have done in the past. Yeah, we say default win, but we can't forget that Team Supreme are the top team in the league, boasting some of the top players in the league, really making it hard for other teams to challenge their position. And they moved on to quite an early cap in the north, and DiNG don't have the tanks really to do anything about this. I mean, Hulknick is the closest, and he won't even get a spot on. This is really going to light a fire under DiNG's feet. Yeah, they didn't expect Team Supreme to go so early into the cap, but, you know, this is something we haven't seen from the team. Just go aggressive into the cap straight away with the light tanks. We've seen Penta go aggressive with heavy tanks into the cap, but not such a light lineup. Look at this. Stoic's going to be forced to come up and try and get a reset, and already Supreme have adapted. They've changed their positioning, and there's no way. But, of course, Hulknick, I think the spot came in, and he got a shot on towards someone. Or was it just a slight reset? He didn't get a spot, but basically because Team Supreme was spotted, they had to retreat behind the corner, and after taking down the MT25, they got a tier 6 advantage. So they looked like they were going to get fairly close to that one, but they're going to be happy to back off the cap with that tier 6 advantage. Percushiat and Shockish are in the middle of the town right now, on top of Team Supreme's spawn location, and they might be able to catch them on the cross as they come. Griffin as well bringing up the rear here. Phoenix going to get hammered here. FC Dynamo takes a shot. Plan A failed for Team Supreme. Let's see if Plan B is going to be any better. Nuclear has also joined the fray here. DiNG have a nice little crossfire set up here. Let's see if it pays off. This is going really well for DiNG. I don't think Team Supreme realized that Shockish and Percushiat would be there on the cross with the T54s, and they could do so much damage. Team Supreme need to find a way out of this situation. All right, Team Supreme are still up in terms of health points. Shanish with 3 still in the auto loader here. You can see Applewell and Ron. They really want to dig Percushiat and Shockish out of the center of the map, and Shanish is getting absolutely battered right now, but he still has 2 shots to use, and he bounces the shot from Meritorious as well. The 5100 isn't known for having good armor, but he's got the lucky bounce. He will also bounce off Meritorious, but Phoenix opens up the account. He takes down Percushiat here, and DiNG are running out of health here. It looks like Team Supreme are just more confident in this head-to-head engagement. Lauren's doing some dances in the background. She's happy about this one, but DiNG, it's not over for him yet. Well, it's a bad move there, because Shani should have died in the AMX 5100, but he didn't, and that's given Team Supreme a good advantage. That's really going to come back to bite DiNG in the rear end here. Hulknick takes a double tack, make it a triple, and Meritorious is going to come straight towards FC Dynamo. Applewell will respond on towards Meritorious. The kill feed is filling up, but the real story at the moment is that Hulknick is on his lonesome. He's trying to stand up against Team Supreme. 1, 2, 3 is DiNG's health. And it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3 for those guys. And Team Supreme roll over the top of them there. Sign of a high-caliber team if they could sort of revert to plan B and still stomp the enemy team. Yeah, it went really well for DiNG at the beginning because apart from that MT25 going down, they had the... I don't know what you're talking about. Do the dance. Do the dance.
I just like being right. It's Ray. You know? Carry on. Tell me why I'm right, Ollie.
Because they won.
Yes. Best analysis ever.
But still, to be fair, DiNG has only won one of the attacking rounds, but in the 4 they've played, 2 of the attacking rounds in the 4 they've played. They only need to win 1 on Ruinberg for it to actually make it work for them on the defensive round. So, but anyway. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I think, you know, Percushiat and Shockish in that position was really clever. And that's where DiNG was winning. But then you had Ron, and I think it was Phoenix on the flank, or Apoel on the flank with the T-54s. And then then he was starting doing damage, and then Trockish and Pucusiat couldn't do damage anymore. And then he had so many misses by Meritorious onto Shanish, where he should have been taken down to a one-shot a lot earlier, or just even killed. You know, they just started losing those engagements.
Pucusiat and Trockish, yeah, I mean, they were in position, like you said, but the execution wasn't there. The setup was great. Bingo. It's the same as Penta on this map. Their setup was good. They were in the right spots, but they weren't connecting the shots here. You can see Shanish still standing. I mean, he takes that shot from Kenny Boy. I think he's about to bounce one from Meritorious in just a moment. The fact that he's still standing here as well, it blows my mind.
Yeah, that big bounce from Meritorious basically means Shanish lives through this. And you can see Ron and Apwell, they stop Pucusiat and Shockish from actually doing anything. And they have to reverse, and then they die.
Oh, he's so low.
It's just awful for DiNG to be in that situation where they surrounded Team Supreme, but Team Supreme made one good decision which gave them the round.
And that's all they have to do. That is honestly all they have to do. We spoke earlier in the night. The hallmark of a good team or a great team is the one that not only can set up properly, but can also make those adaptations on the fly and still execute them correctly and in line with their initial strategy. So you do have to hand it to Team Supreme there. We expect no less, to be honest with you. We really don't, but it's definitely a good way for them to respond. So let's check out the second round here. Let's see if DiNG can maybe shrug off some of those jitters and make it happen. This is their home. This is their home ground. Defense on Ruinberg. Yes, it's Team Supreme, but they've got to stick to their guns. But what tanks have we got here? Anything changed in terms of their lineups? I don't think we'll have
enough time for that as DiNG just go charging into the middle. This could be a straight-on brawl, and they might have caught Team Supreme by surprise.
What are we seeing here? Griffin and Phoenix get off lucky with those first two shots, and so does Applewell. Meritorious went low, and Shockish is just going to angle himself around the corner and try to put some shots up, but Shanish gets up into that little spot on the 5100, so he could sort of roll back and forth here. And Ollie, you're shaking your head.
They just made a massive meal of that one. They should have been able to take down one of Team Supreme's tanks. They shouldn't have stopped either. They had the overmatch. Should have just gone in. Shanish wouldn't have reloaded in that AMX 5100, but once again, DiNG are super scared of going forwards and actually committing to these engagements.
They didn't push down the street. They had the overmatch, and this has given Supreme enough time to set up there. And I mean, Supreme don't necessarily want 3 tanks to be stuck up on that street, but it's a better result for them than what could have happened. DiNG looked like they were going to be really taking momentum here and really making the first move. And that's what you have to do against Team Supreme. But now, as every second ticks by, that's another second that Ron on your screen now, the strategic mastermind, has to piece things together for Supreme to make their attack. DiNG are pulling back into the city. This is their default strat when things don't really work out great the first time. And now the onus is on Team Supreme to pick them apart bit by bit.
So I think DiNG are now just going to head down the 0 line with Pucusiat and Kenny Boy, try and take down Ron and FC Dynamo, and then, you know, they have the angles to actually deal with Team Supreme. The question is, how much damage will they take down this line?
Ron falls. Nothing really to write home about too much for Team Supreme here. They do have the health point advantage. Pucusiat, Kenny Boy, Shockish, all in a line, trying to get into that back corner. Pucusiat will take a hit, but Shockish wants to go straight towards FC Dynamo. It's like a knee-jerk reaction from him. He straight away decided to go in, and it's not paying off. He's taking a lot of damage. He's very, very, very low. FC Dynamo somehow against the odds is still standing, finally drops down, but the health point trade for DiNG was not efficient. They got wrecked on that push. Diplomat is going to try and do something about it, hoping that Team Supreme's heads are turned away from his position, but Griffin and Phoenix have good protection from that building.
Actually, I don't think DiNG's in such a bad situation. They got Pucusiat in the background, also Diplomat doing great work against Shanish as Griffin does decide to get in the action.
Starting to turn on its head this game. Meritorious getting in position for a shot on towards Shanish. Diplomat also contributes to that one. Griffin and Phoenix maybe want to block the shots towards that 5100 and keep Shanish alive for a bit longer. But how much longer can they really do that? Phoenix is a one-shot. Diplomat, to be fair, is also a one-shot. But Team Supreme, it's now a 3v4 situation in favour of DiNG.
But they had the overmatch in the eastern side with Apwell all the way up north and Pucusiat providing supply. But Pucusiat just about gets away with that one, and he might be able to find Apwell.
Hulknick luckily has the autoloader there, so he's able to cover over that earlier bounce from Meritorious. But Griffin stuck up against 2 big tanks, and while Applewell may be able to get that 1v1 on the top part of the map, DiNG now can sort of spread their focus a bit. Meritorious can look towards Griffin. He can sort of gang up. There are still 3 tanks here. Hulknick is on reload, to be fair. But I mean, even without him on the map, it's a 2v2 situation. Somehow Pucusiat is still alive, and that is going to come back to bite Team Supreme in the rear.
He's in the best position as well. He's all the way down to the K0 line. You can get so much map dominance from there because you can shoot in the middle, you can shoot in the eastern village, you can shoot everywhere as Griffin just make a shell. But the biggest point is, you mentioned Hulknick's on reload, one of the best players from DiNG. Now he's off reload, now you'll see DiNG make the first move. Or their first move could just be sitting there, They've got every kind of angle covered, especially with Pikusiat in that situation, and they'll just wait for, you know, Team Supreme to make the next move.
This is not unwinnable. Meritorious is on a one-shot, so is Pikusiat, and Hulknik isn't far off as well. It's entirely conceivable that we might see Supreme push up on towards that cap and set themselves up around the corner and hope that DiNG sort of push towards them. If DiNG fail to this strategy, it's really on them, because it's definitely a desperation tactic for Supreme here to try and do something. But Applewell actually will make his way over towards that cap. But Meritorious has already sort of seen through this now. It's going to be a Mexican standoff between these two tanks if they do spot each other. The first man on the mouse one is going to be the victor. But Applewell just hopes he's not in the line of sight of another tank as well. The 2v1 will be devastating. Meritorious, was he lit? I'm not sure. He doesn't seem to be lit here, but Applewell will go up and see if he can find him. Using the buildings here to protect him from the rest of DiNG's tanks, Team Supreme might be able to turn this into a 2v2 as quick as you like.
Applewell just trying to spot out anything in that eastern village, but yeah, the biggest point is that Meritorious is in A0. Now, Hulknik, Pikusiat know that the obvious choice for Team Supreme is that northern cap. But as you mentioned, Applewell down to a one-shot. The only one who can really take any damage is Griffin.
What are you doing, Griffin? He's pushed across the field, out in the open, spotted by Meritorious. Dumb decision, Griffin. Really has messed up. And now he's going to have to sit behind that dip.
Hulknik did miss that shot, and Pikusiat, you know, that's not an easy shell to make there. Does manage to land it, and Applewell remains.
Applewell now has to deal with 3. This is Team Supreme fluffing their lines, something chronic, and DiNG are going to push them harder than any team has pushed them yet this season. Applewell's looking for Meritorious, and he won't even find it because the man was sitting behind a bush. Meritorious, ex-teammate of Applewell, is actually going to be the one to deal the final blow to him and make it a 3-3 affair. 3-3,
very close though. I mean, Team Supreme taking it that close on Ruinberg attack is a truly incredible feat indeed. But, you know, where it went wrong for Team Supreme, they just didn't expect the push from DiNG going straight across the 0 line, just going down, and Shockish being so aggressive, losing so much hit points. I'm not sure if that was the best move. I think if they just held that 0 line, they would also be able to achieve pretty much the same thing, but they did it anyway, and that gave DiNG some breathing room to get that eastern village, to get the corners, and they won the engagements that way.
DiNG are doing it right. They're not winning both rounds of each half, but they're getting one every single time. They're standing up to Supreme right now like no team has before. But let's have a look at that situation where Shockish kind of just vanished from contention. He kind of just went a bit AWOL here. You can see this is where it went aggressive over those lines. Pikusiat takes a hit. Shockish though sees FC Dynamo.
This Shockish just being angry. There's no reason why he should do that. If they have all tanks in K0, they can take down FC Dynamo anyway.
I get that.
And if Shockish really wanted to go for that engagement, have Kenny Boy next to him instead of just going in on his own. He does actually manage to do it and stay safe for a little bit longer, but you can see DiNG now have the upper ground. They have the overmatch on Team Supreme because the whole of Team Supreme just aims all those T-54s pushing in, and you can see already on the map, you know, once you have that 0 line in that situation, it's quite hard to win. But it was so close. I mean, some high rolls would have given Team Supreme that game as well. It
was tight as well. On Team Supreme, they did throw caution to the waters. They attempted for that northern cap like they had any other choice. But Griffin pushing across that field, it seems bizarre to me. They didn't see Meritorious. He was set up quite nicely in a low profile, 54 lightweight. This is that push here, and it's spotted by Meritorious, and it instantly pretty much blown up as soon as he gets behind this statue. It's low ground. I mean, the 5100, 54 lightweights can all shoot down there. I like the idea that Applewell wanted to push up and use those houses to protect himself from the 2 tanks if he tried to 1v1 Meritorious. Yeah. But it looks like Team Supreme just sort of lost the thread here.
To be fair, Griffin could have survived that, but he drove too far past the fountain. He got hit by Pikusiat and got taken down. Of course, he was going to get hit by Meritorious on the cross, but then he has enough damage, enough hit points to take 1 shell. But he just overcooks it and gets taken down. I think if he did get into that position, it would have been a nice crossfire situation, but he just doesn't quite get there and gets a little bit wiped off the map. But yeah, 1 apiece. Of course, you know, DiNG now moving on to the attacking side, obviously a little bit more shaky. And to be fair, Team Supreme were very potent there on the attack as well.
And look, this is DiNG. This is DiNG doing what they do, and they've done it in the last few rounds as well. Against Stronk, they went 3-1 on Ruinberg. Oh, no, sorry, against Rox it was 3-1. Against Stronk it was 3-1 as well. These guys can get attacking rounds. They've shown a proclivity for doing so. And this is their chance to really prove it to us now. 3-3 it is. DiNG in the red. They're attacking, coming out of the center of that city, and Supreme defending in the blue.
Carnarvon from Nuclear. I just got to say that. British tank first, well, not the first time in the league. I think the last time we saw it was Season 3 finals, where we saw the Centurion Mark 1 being brought out by, I believe it was pretty similar guys to these, maybe. Can't exactly remember the team, but yeah, this is super surprising. I mean, the Carnarvon, 240 damage. The big thing is it's got a lot of hit points, 1.6k, and the rate of fire is pretty insane on that thing as it does push forwards.
I don't really know if the British Pride is going to be standing for too much longer. Here's the push out from DiNG. This time they commit to it there, and Nuclear is just going to get decimated right now. He's still on his feet, and yeah, you got to give credit to the big health pool of that tank.
And
the perfect tank really for them to go towards here, and DiNG now just spreading out like flies. This is where a good team will focus down the right target. The Shannon picks up Shockish there. Kenny Boy super low. That rate of fire of the Carnarvon is incredible, and DiNG are falling like flies.
The Carnarvon just bounced so many shells from the front, from the side. Yeah, sure, it didn't. But Team Supreme, once they had that whole engagement sorted, they could really just push off and deal with DiNG.
Wow. I'm impressed. I really am impressed. You can see now Diplomat picks up Dynamo on that top part of the map, but Supreme has so many tanks still standing, and we've never seen that before, that Carnarvon. And to be fair, they kind of, DiNG kind of played into Supreme's hands with that. That's the tank you want in that position, to be absorbing shots, to be bouncing them back. Beautiful work. And Phoenix now to clean up Stoic, and essentially it is a clean-up effort right now for Team Supreme. With over 4,000 hit points, they're just going to try and hunt down those last tanks and send them packing.
Yeah, it's game over. Diplomat and Merry, the ones remaining for DiNG. 108 HP left on Merry.
Wow,
He knows
he's done.
It's
He's already in his garage right now. he's not bothering with that one. Wow. Team Supreme, good work. I mean, they need this round. They really don't want to let DiNG get within, you know, striking distance of the win here. But talk to me about the Carnarvon a bit. I want to know about this tank. I want to know why we're seeing it right now in this scenario.
I'm pretty sure it's got spaced armor on the front, and you could see how many bounces the T-54s did against it. So the T-54s came across, they got side shells onto the Carnarvon, and then it simply turned its turret. You can see here. I think first of all, there's one shell into the tracks, and then there's 2 or 3 shells that bounce. There we go.
Bounce.
That was 4 shells that bounced there. And then that's like DiNG. We should have taken this Carnarvon now. And every one of DiNG's turrets is aiming towards that Carnarvon still. And then you see Team Supreme.
Look at that.
Just comes in and takes him down. And the Carnarvon just pumping 240 damage after 240 damage. And it's game over.
Nuclear probably only hit about 3 out of 10 shots there. You saw in the lower third as well, he was 6 hits for no penetrations.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. It's almost like what we almost see from the KV-5, you know, almost fulfilling that similar role to soak up the damage, just to be that distraction. The gun's not important. It's an ugly tank, it's a big tank, it's a slow tank, but it doesn't matter because he's absorbing so many shots and virtually giving free damage over to Supreme.
I think there's another element here. When you're driving that fast, you use auto-aim, because when you can't drive and aim unless you can, but you know it's not normal for World of Tanks players. So I think the auto aim point from the front against the Carnarvon is the top upper glaciers, which is fine if you're shooting an IS-3, fine if you're shooting an AMX 5100, but if you're shooting a Carnarvon, you're just never going to penetrate, and that's probably why they picked it.
Fantastic. Team Supreme have been the guys to change things up and try something new, and this kind of worked out for Nuclear in that case. But Lauren, these two teams have been going at it hammer and tongs, as we say back home, and it's been neck and neck. We're getting excited. We'd like an underdog, but what about everyone at home?
Alexander literally just said, this is by far the best I've seen this season. No one expected DiNG to come out like this. They got maybe 30% of the votes at best, and now look at what they're able to achieve. They're forcing Team Supreme to probably bring out tricks that they didn't want to show to people until far later into this season. Bringing out a brand new tank on a map that hasn't been greatly anti-strategy yet for Team Supreme. That's something they don't want to be showing in a game against DiNG, who's down in like 10th. But that is credit to DiNG for bringing out a brilliant game. Now, I said it was all Supremes, but hell, DiNG's turned up.
DiNG amazing. I mean, as you mentioned, you know, having been so far down that table, it's incredible that they actually, you know, really putting Team Supreme on the back foot in many respects, and Team Supreme having to bring out the big guns in terms of the British tanks to actually win this.
I mean, yeah, nice one. I mean, let's put this in perspective. The British tank didn't actually do much damage at all. He just sort of got he was the punching bag. I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's something, but it does explain the way our banter goes and in what direction when we're out for a couple cheeky ones. But all right, we're on to the last round of this map. DiNG have got to win this one to make it even, to go to that overtime steps map. But Supreme, they want to crush this Rebellion. They want to be done with this game because DiNG have pushed him too far. Yeah,
DiNG going straight through the middle, aggressive with those T-54s, as you do expect from DiNG. And, you know, to be fair, Penta as well did the same thing against ASAP. Initial damage, just a little bit towards Team Supreme. Now, zero line looks like the way they want to go. Obviously, it's actually surprising. I mean, I'm going to reset that here, because if you want to go to the zero line, you go through the south of the city. You don't go through the middle. DiNG just gets a bit of information, they work their way around again, and they're probably going to come from the north instead.
And at what cost was really accrued here? It doesn't really seem like they had to give much up to gain that information.
No, definitely not. Only one shell onto Hulknick was the only cost they incurred. And I think as well, you know, with the Carnivan, pretty slow. You know, the overmatch is going to be unreal. They're going to take down the MT-25 in a matter of seconds. The IS-3 will fall if they really want to commit to that. The one problem I see them having is that they don't have any tank in the middle. And you need to have a tank there to actually get side shots onto the IS-3, played by FC Dynamo up north. Otherwise, it will be very long and arduous affair to take him down.
So, as you said, DiNG virtually have to go at this from one angle. And Team Supreme, if they can train their guns there and get it done in time, can really make them pay. Ron trying to get the heck out of dodge there. He's done work and he's dodged a few shots going over his head. He might be able to get away here. And he's definitely got the attention of DiNG for longer than they would have liked to spend. Nuclear, sorry, takes a hit there. And look at these lightweights. They're out in the open. Mr. Akar copping some damage. Kenny Boy as well. DiNG just sort of exposing themselves here. And they're not gaining much at all. Only Nuclear and Ron have taken damage so far. And Team Supreme have started this one off very strong.
Pretty funny, because Team Supreme did the same thing against DiNG and it didn't work out, and it's obviously not working out for them in this case. FC Dynamo will just start going forwards once he has support there from Shanish and Apawao. You know, they got one problem here, Supreme, is that T-37 is just holding those tanks back. But when he does fall, I don't know how the DiNG can get into this.
Shockish is just getting hammered right now. He's a one-shot forced to back away. Mr. Akar's been out in the open for literally a minute and a half, and it shows in terms of his health. Hulknick is doing okay until Dynamo put a shot into him here, and DiNG really are just falling apart here. They're not trading effectively into this part of the map. Shockish misses an absolute sitter of a shot, and FC Dynamo's easy to come forward there. Shot missed towards Shanish. Shot missed, shot missed, shot missed. Shanish and Applewell, they're just going to make DiNG pay for these mistakes. They're falling apart at the finish line. The second time tonight we've seen this happen. Hulknick drops, Mr. Akar drops, and Meritorious and Stoik are the last two standing.
Again, Meritorious and Stoik. I mean, to be fair, Meritorious is by far the most successful player on DiNG. He's been doing the most damage for his team for a long time now, but there's only so much that beast can do. 1.5k out of him, and Stoik, who was holding that middle area, does get spotted and will probably just go in for the suicide or just exit to battle. Exit to garage.
I think he's just going to do donuts with his gun up in the air. That sort of makes just as much sense. So he knows he's done. DiNG know they're done as well, and this is their weakness on Ruinberg attack being exposed. What we said about them way back in their first performance, so it was week 1, match day 2, DiNG play well when they can sit together as a unit, but when they have to be proactive, they struggled, especially in that first week. They've shown some improvement. There's no doubt about it. And we love to see that. It means they're really working at it. But it's still not enough, because it seems Supreme, they love to sit back. They like to come forward just as much, but strategically it's less taxing to sit back. They just let DiNG come to them, and DiNG undid themselves, especially in that last round.
I think ultimately, you know, DiNG was super happy and maybe concentrated a little bit too much on Lakeville. Obviously, they came out of that one 2 apiece. Then they went onto Ruinberg like, hey, this is our map. This is our home ground. This is our stomping ground. We're going to walk away with this one easy. Then they lost that first attacking round, and then it threw up everything in the air. DiNG just didn't seem to be able to react. And, you know, Team Supreme, they just undid DiNG's attack. You know, they countered it with the T-54s pushing in the middle. They countered it with the Carnivan there. And DiNG just didn't know what to do. They just were lost for words. They did come back in many respects, but I think in the same way Team Supreme lost Lakeville in many respects, DiNG lost Ruinberg.
Well, let's just quickly have a look at how this last map transpired as well. This is the daisy train of T-54s just pushing out here. To what end, we're not really sure. Ron absolutely lit them all up. Almost the entirety of DiNG was lit. And then they're sort of pushed towards the houses, but then stayed out in the open, Ollie.
Yeah, I think, you know, if there's an MT-25 there, it spots you early. Team Supreme immediately can turn their turrets, turn their guns, get themselves in position. You can see Apawao and Shanish immediately react. You've got SD Dynamo on the left with the IS-3. Griffin takes down a perma-track Kenny Boy. You know, it's game over. Let's be honest. It's game over. 2k hit points plus for Team Supreme. Last-ditch attempt when DiNG knew they were down and out. Not much going to happen there.
Why couldn't they have pushed onto FC Dynamo and used the cover of the buildings to make it harder for them to hit?
They should have done that. I mean, it would have been tricky because they would have had support, but they should have done that. But they had, to be fair, Team Supreme had Apoel and Shenish in the background supporting. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of questions asked for DiNG. I'm not sure exactly what they wanted to achieve in that northern push, to be honest.
It's funny because as we were introducing the game and the initial pushes, you made a really good point and you really glossed over it like it wasn't really important at the time. But you said, I'm really concerned that DiNG aren't using the middle of the map here. I'm really concerned that all pushing to the top. You often see them all sort of set up on that middle road and try and flank. None of that happened. They really committed all of their force into a spearhead push. Ruinberg is a map where you have lots of open spaces out in the field to deal with, and it takes a long time to close that gap.
Yep.
When you're pushing 5 lightweights out into the wilderness, when your enemy has tanks that are undoubtedly watching because they already sort of knew where DiNG would go, you're already at a massive disadvantage. The percentages for that working out are so low. And then DiNG didn't help themselves because they didn't give themselves any cover.
Yep.
They didn't push forward. This is the second time we've seen a team perform so well, the same as we saw with No Mercy, and just at the finish line falter. But Team Supreme get it done. I mean, it definitely wasn't a clean win for them, but it was a win nonetheless. But other teams will definitely be watching, circling like vultures, starting to see some weaknesses start to appear.
Exactly. DiNG showed that Team Supreme can actually lose, and I think DiNG showed that they were a little bit predictable with the full T54s and not picking any IS3s. You know, the meta right now is the IS3, but you're 100% right. You know, Team Supreme can lose. They can lose on the map they like, and they can lose in the situations where it is about player skill, and that's a really, you know, frightening thought for them.
All right, well, that's done and dusted. We are 3 games done. But let's go back and have a look at the recap of tonight's games. And it's been a long night, but some fantastic Water Tanks action. No Mercy versus Utopia. My God, what a game. And it only got better. Really, that last map was fantastic. Ghost Town, MV Papa was huge.
Yeah, that was my favorite map and my favorite match in the whole of today's games. I mean, No Mercy they looked so good. They started off so well in Lakeville, but it just went downhill on Ghost Town. I'm actually quite upset that they didn't win that one because I really did think that they had a lot of interesting things to bring to the table.
I love it. These games have been so good. And we saw Kazna Crew go up against Penta Sports, and as a counterpoint to the earlier game, this was a game where we saw 2 teams that ostensibly, on paper, were a bit more evenly matched, but it turned out to be quite the opposite. A blowout for Kazna.
Yeah, a pretty one-sided match there for Kazna Crew. Penta definitely need to get themselves sorted there. DiNG Supreme, we just saw what happened. Supreme still have the ability not just to win in the 1 versus 1 fights, which I think DiNG actually, you know, encroached on, but also, you know, with the Carnivan tactic, they also have the ability to try new things and, you know, look at the other leagues to what they're doing and copy them and make them a little bit better.
And you got to hand it to DiNG. They're forcing the hand of Supreme here. They are forcing them. They're stretching them. And this, you know, if you look at the table and all those teams, the gap between them is a lot less than we maybe realise at this point. 1st and 11th, I think it was. And my God, this was obviously before tonight's game, so don't get too excited. But DiNG, 10th place, really pushing Supreme. That's a great way to get an idea of just how far apart these were on the table, but how close they were on the battlefield. Lauren, the battlefield riddled with many of tanks and plenty of explosions and nice pyrotechnics.
It's beautiful to watch.
Everyone at home's been enjoying it, I'm sure, getting excited. It's been great to have you here as well. What are your closing thoughts on tonight?
Well, I think you summed it up perfectly with the ladder there in the leaderboard, because we said it in the last show as well. The EU region is getting so strong from top to bottom. It doesn't matter sometimes what the results say. You watch these games in depth, you can see how good these teams actually are. Even DiNG being able to challenge Supreme, you go back a season, 2 seasons, you'd never see anything like that. I think the closest we ever got was, who was it? It was the Finnish team, Spala, taking on Virtus Pro and taking maybe a map off them. Yeah. But no one else was able to ever come close towards those sort of upsets. So being able to see this coming into the season is fantastic, and all the viewers are absolutely loving it. So thank you to everyone who watched this at home. You guys on Twitch have been brilliant. I love the kind of like insight coming out from even chat. Bit Lions in there, you've got Raven in there. Everyone's sitting back going, wow, DiNG did actually really well. I'm kind of surprised by these guys. Wow, okay, just going to take a couple of notes down. But no, the community's It's been phenomenal so far. Thank you for all the votes on Facebook. If you haven't done that and you want to check out what I'm talking about, head over to facebook.com/WGLEU. Then check out Twitter if you fancy some more, which is exactly the same, twitter.com/WGLEU. And funny enough, YouTube. I think you can guess it. I'm not going to tell you, and if you can't, I'm a little worried. But thank you so much to all of you guys for getting involved on Twitter as well. Your analysis through there was second to none. I think we could probably replace Ollie with some of you backseat gamers. But yeah, it's been an absolute treat today.
All right, well, thank you very much for you guys at home for joining us. Absolutely thank you, Lauren and Oliver, for joining me as well. It's been fun. A bit more banter-esque environment than usual. Are you okay? Like, you're still...
I'm all right, I'm all right. Are you okay there as well? Do you need some...
He choked
there were
up
a couple
bit.
moments. Yeah, it was...
Ventolin, maybe?
I think I saw, like, Lauren dancing in her seat, and I was just like, I couldn't handle it. But interesting moment there. It's the kind of moves coming out that we only see, like, at underground, like, late on a Saturday night.
What is underground?
I don't know.
No, me neither.
I'll just bring it up. But anyway,
the basement?
Let's close for the night. We're starting to get a bit loose here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday for some big games. Let's quickly have a look at those games to get a preview before we close up. We're going to be having Synergy versus ASAP, Wusa versus Supreme, and Tornado Rocks taking on the Poland Ball. You know them, you love them. It's Stronk, Siema. But again, as we close the show, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Good night and good game.